The alien ships came without warning. They appeared near Jupiter like dark shadows against the stars, thousands of them, more ships than Earth had ever seen in one place. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center deep beneath Colorado. The massive screens showed the alien fleet spreading across the outer solar system. Each ship was bigger than Earth's largest city. The fleet stretched from Jupiter to Saturn. It was impossible to count them all. How many? Chen asked her aide, Lieutenant Torres. Our computers stopped counting at 10,000, Admiral. There could be twice that number. Chen felt cold inside. Earth's entire space navy had maybe 200 ships. Most of them were small patrol boats. Against this alien army, they would last maybe 5 minutes. The aliens had been talking to Earth's governments for 3 months. They called themselves the Galactic Hegemony. 12 different alien races working together. They controlled most of the galaxy, they said. They had rules about which species could live where. Humans broke their rules just by existing. The aliens said humans were too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. Humans learned too fast and asked too many questions. Other species in the galaxy were peaceful. They followed orders. They knew their place. Humans did not. The alien message came through every communication system on Earth at the same time. Television, radio, internet, military channels, even personal phones. The voice was strange, like metal scraping against stone. People of Earth, this is Overlord Zektar of the Galactic Hegemony. You have 30 of your solar cycles to make your choice. Surrender your world and accept relocation to the worlds we have prepared for you, or face complete destruction. These are your only options. The message showed images of other worlds, planets with gray skies and brown soil. The aliens called them reservation worlds. They were where humans would live if they surrendered. Small planets with just enough resources to keep humans alive. Nothing more. Your species is an infection, the alien voice continued. You spread chaos wherever you go. You question authority. You resist control. You corrupt other species with your ideas of freedom. This cannot be allowed to continue. Chen watched the message with the other military leaders. President Martinez was there too, along with the heads of every major nation. Their faces were pale. Some looked ready to give up already. We have studied your military capabilities, the alien continued. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Resistance is impossible. Surrender now and some of your people will survive. Fight us and every human in the galaxy will die. The message ended with images of other worlds, dead worlds, planets that had been stripped bare of all life. The aliens had done this before. Many times President Martinez spoke first. We need to consider their offer. Survival is better than extinction. Survival as slaves, Chen replied. Look at those reservation worlds. They're prisons. Better than graves, said General Park from Korea. Chen looked at the alien fleet on the screens. Each ship could probably destroy a city by itself. Together, they could crack planets. Earth's defenses were nothing against such power. But Chen remembered something her grandfather had told her. He had been a soldier in World War II. Sometimes, he had said, you don't fight because you can win. You fight because it's right. Admiral Chen, President Martinez said, give me your military assessment. Can we fight them? Chen was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room waited for her answer. Outside, 6 billion people went about their normal lives. They watched the news. They worried. They hoped their leaders would find a way. No, sir, Chen said finally. We cannot fight them and win. Their technology is too advanced. Their numbers are too great. In a straight military conflict, they would destroy us in hours. Some of the leaders looked relieved. Surrender was the logical choice. However, Chen continued, I recommend we reject their ultimatum. The room erupted in angry voices. President Martinez raised his hand for silence. Explain, Admiral. Chen pulled up new images on the main screen. Intelligence reports from deep space. Intercepted alien communications. Data their best scientists had been studying for months. The aliens say they will relocate us. But look at this data. We've been tracking their previous conquests. 43 species in the last 1,000 years. Every single one was promised relocation to reservation worlds. Chen highlighted key information. None of those species exist anymore. The reservation worlds are empty, stripped clean. The aliens don't relocate conquered species. They eliminate them completely. The room fell silent. The choice isn't between surrender and death, Chen said. It's between quick death and slow death. Either way, humanity ends. President Martinez leaned forward. Then what do you suggest? Chen thought about her grandfather again. About the stories he told of ordinary people doing extraordinary things when everything seemed hopeless. About soldiers who charged machine gun nests not because they could win, but because their friends needed them to try. We make them remember us, Chen said. The debate went on for hours. Some leaders wanted to surrender anyway. Maybe the aliens were telling the truth about relocation. Maybe some humans could survive. Others wanted to fight a hopeless war. Go down swinging. Make the aliens pay for every human life. Chen had a different idea. But it would require something no human leader had ever asked for. It would require everyone on Earth to agree to the ultimate sacrifice. The decision came when they received a message from the children. Somehow, kids around the world had found out about the alien ultimatum. They had organized themselves. Millions of children sending the same message to world leaders. Don't let them take our home. It was written in crayon, in chalk on sidewalks, in finger paint on windows. Children who didn't understand politics or military strategy. They just knew that Earth was theirs. They weren't going to give it up without a fight. President Martinez read some of the messages out loud. A 7-year-old from Japan who drew a picture of Earth with a big heart around it. A 10-year-old from Brazil who wrote, "Earth is the best planet ever and nobody can have it." A 12-year-old from Kenya who said, "I'd rather die here than live somewhere else." They're just children, General Park said. They don't understand. Maybe they understand better than we do, Chen replied. The vote was close, but humanity chose defiance. President Martinez stood up slowly. He looked older than his years. The weight of 6 billion lives pressed down on his shoulders. We will send our response to the aliens tomorrow, he said. We reject their ultimatum. Earth is humanity's home. We will not abandon it. We will not surrender it. If they want our world, they will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. Chen felt proud and terrified at the same time. They had chosen the harder path. The path that led to certain death, but it was the human path. The path their children would understand when they grew up. If any of them lived long enough to grow up. Outside, the alien fleet waited like a dark cloud around the sun. Soon, very soon, they would move toward Earth. And then the real work would begin. Chen had a plan. A terrible, beautiful plan that would ensure the aliens remembered humanity forever. But first she had to convince the world to help her build the biggest bomb in human history. Dr. Marcus Webb stared at the alien device on his laboratory table. It was small, about the size of a coffee cup, but it contained technology that made Earth's computers look like stone tools. The aliens had left several devices behind after their first diplomatic meeting. They probably thought humans were too primitive to learn anything from them. They were wrong. Webb had been studying alien technology for 2 months. What he found made him sick to his stomach. The device wasn't just a communication tool. It was a scanner, a weapon, a tool for complete planetary destruction. Show me again, Admiral Chen said. She had come to Webb's lab in the middle of the night. Outside, the alien fleet hung in space like a sword over Earth's neck. Webb activated the device. Holographic images filled the air above the table. Planets, dozens of them, all dead. This is their standard procedure, Webb explained. First, they scan the planet completely. Every resource, every life form, every useful element. Then they strip it all away. The images showed the process. Massive machines descending from space. They looked like metal spiders the size of mountains. They dug into planets like hungry animals. They ate everything. Rock, water, air, life. Nothing was left behind. How long does it take? Chen asked. 6 months for a planet Earth size. They're very efficient. Chen studied the images. Dead worlds spinning in space. Gray spheres with no atmosphere, no water, no hope. 43 species had trusted the aliens' promises. 43 civilizations had accepted relocation to reservation worlds. None of them existed anymore. What about the reservation worlds they showed us? Chen asked. Webb pulled up more images. I tracked down 3 of them. All empty. The aliens probably used old recordings to make their propaganda videos. They never intended to keep any of their promises. Chen felt anger burning in her chest. The aliens hadn't just planned to kill humanity. They had planned to lie about it, to make humans think they had a choice when they never had one at all. There's something else, Webb said. He looked frightened. I've been monitoring their communications. They're moving up their timeline. They plan to attack in 15 days instead of 30. Why? They think we're cowards. Their scouts report that humans are evacuating instead of building defenses. They want to finish this quickly and move on to their next target. Chen smiled grimly. The aliens thought humans were running away. They had no idea what humanity was really doing. For the past 2 weeks, Earth had been busy with the largest operation in human history. But it wasn't an evacuation. It was something much more important. Every space-worthy ship on Earth was launching toward deep space. Colony ships, research vessels, even converted cargo haulers. They carried carefully selected volunteers and the most important things humanity had created. Art, music, literature, scientific knowledge, genetic samples from every species on Earth. The aliens saw ships leaving and thought humans were running away in panic. They didn't understand that humans were planting seeds that would grow into new human civilizations far from Earth, places where human children could grow up free. How many ships have launched? Chen asked. 237, Webb replied, carrying about 50,000 people total, plus the genetic banks, cultural archives, and manufacturing equipment to rebuild human civilization anywhere in the galaxy. It wasn't many people, but it was enough. Enough to ensure that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, humans would continue to exist, continue to grow, continue to ask questions and challenge authority, and spread their dangerous ideas of freedom. The aliens thought they were destroying humanity. Instead, they were spreading it across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. But the real work was happening on Earth itself. Chen left Webb's lab and traveled to the construction site. It was hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains in caves that went deeper than anyone had thought possible. Thousands of engineers and workers labored around the clock. They were building something that had never been built before. The project had no official name. The workers called it the last gift. Chen descended into the deepest levels of the construction site. The air was hot and humid. Massive machines dug deeper into the earth with every passing hour. They were following natural fissures in the rock, paths that led toward the planet's molten core. How much deeper? Chen asked Dr. Sarah Kim, the project's chief engineer. Another 1,000 meters. Then we start installing the primary charges. Chen looked at the construction diagrams. What they were building was insane. Beautiful and terrible and completely insane. It would take all of humanity's nuclear weapons, all of their fusion technology, all of their knowledge about planetary geology and physics, and when it was finished, it would turn Earth itself into the largest bomb ever created. Will it work? Chen asked. Dr. Kim was quiet for a moment. She was young, barely 30, but she was the smartest person Chen had ever met. She had designed nuclear reactors when she was still in college. She understood forces that could crack planets. Yes, Dr. Kim said finally. It will work. The chain reaction will destabilize the planet's core. The explosion will be visible from the next galaxy. And the alien fleet? Nothing within the inner solar system will survive. Their ships are tough, but they're not tough enough to survive a planet exploding. Chen nodded. It was a good plan. A terrible plan, but a good one. When the aliens came to claim their prize, they would find a trap instead of a conquest. But Chen had something else in mind. Something that would make humanity's final act mean something beyond simple revenge. Dr. Kim, I need you to modify the detonation sequence. We're going to add a delay. Exactly long enough for one final broadcast. Dr. Kim looked puzzled. A broadcast? Admiral, when that weapon detonates, it will destroy every communication system on the planet. That's why we're going to broadcast first. I want every species in the galaxy to hear what happened here. I want them to know why Earth died. Chen explained her plan. Dr. Kim's eyes grew wide as she understood. You want to turn our destruction into a message? The most important message in galactic history. Proof that some species will choose death before slavery. Evidence that the hegemony can be defeated. Instructions for how other species can resist. Dr. Kim smiled for the first time in weeks. The aliens think they're making an example of us. Instead, we're making an example for everyone else. The work continued around the clock. Above ground, normal life went on as much as possible. People went to work. Children went to school. Families had dinner together. Most humans knew they were going to die. But they also knew their deaths would mean something. They were buying time for their children among the stars. They were sending a message that would echo across the galaxy for thousands of years. They were proving that Earth's children would never bow to tyrants. The alien fleet moved closer to Earth each day. Their ships were beautiful in a cold, terrible way. Perfect and deadly and completely confident. They had done this 43 times before. They knew exactly how it would end, except this time would be different. This time, they had picked a fight with a species that preferred mutual destruction to surrender. A species that would rather burn down the universe than live on their knees. Chen stood in the command center and watched the alien ships approach. In 10 days, they would be close enough to begin their assault. Close enough to trigger humanity's final surprise. She thought about the human ships racing toward distant stars. About the children who would grow up free because Earth chose to die. About the message that would carry across space long after the last human on Earth was gone. The aliens wanted war. Soon they would learn what war really meant when humans were involved. Commander Elena Vasquez checked her watch. 3 hours until the alien fleet reached Earth's orbit. 3 hours until the most important broadcast in human history. She stood in the main communication center, surrounded by the most powerful transmitters ever built. Every satellite in Earth's orbit had been converted to boost the signal. Every radio telescope pointed toward space. When Elena spoke, her voice would reach every corner of the galaxy. Behind her, technicians made final adjustments to the equipment. They moved quietly, their faces serious. Everyone knew what was about to happen. Everyone had volunteered to stay. Most of Earth's population had been evacuated to deep underground shelters. They would be safe from the initial alien attack. They would live long enough to see humanity's final moment. But they would not survive what came after. Elena had been chosen to deliver humanity's last message because she understood war. She had fought in 3 different conflicts on Earth. She had seen good people die for bad reasons. She had seen evil triumph, because good people did nothing. Today she would make sure the galaxy remembered what happened when you threatened human children. Admiral Chen entered the communication center. Her uniform was crisp, her expression calm. She looked like a woman going to work, not a woman going to die. "Status report," Chen said. "All systems ready, Admiral. The signal will reach every inhabited system in the galaxy within 6 months. The emergency beacons will continue broadcasting for at least a year." Chen nodded. "And our surprise?" Elena smiled grimly. "Dr. Kim confirms the weapon is ready. The aliens will never see it coming." Through the massive windows, they could see the alien fleet approaching. 10,000 ships moving in perfect formation. They looked unstoppable. Humanity's entire space navy had retreated to the outer system. Earth appeared defenseless. That was exactly what humans wanted the aliens to think. Elena's communication console lit up with incoming messages. Reports from around the world. The alien ground assault was beginning. Massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They landed in major cities without warning. Alien soldiers emerged, expecting to find humans cowering in fear. Instead, they found empty streets, automated defense systems that fought fiercely before being destroyed, booby traps and ambushes that slowed their advance. The aliens were confused. They had expected instant surrender. Instead, they found a planet full of people who refused to give up. Phase 1 complete, reported Lieutenant Torres. "All alien ground forces have landed. They're inside the blast radius," Chen smiled coldly. "Perfect. Commander Vasquez, begin the broadcast." Elena sat down at her console. Around the world, communication arrays came online. Earth's voice prepared to speak to the galaxy for the last time. She thought about her daughter, safely aboard one of the colony ships racing toward distant stars. She thought about all the children who would grow up free because Earth chose to fight. She thought about the aliens who thought humans were just another species to be crushed. They were about to learn better, broadcasting. "In 30 seconds, reported the communications. Officer Elena took a deep breath. She had practiced this speech 100 times. Every word had been chosen carefully. This message would travel across space for decades. It would reach species that humans had never met. It would change the galaxy forever, broadcasting in 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The red light came on. Elena began to speak. "To all species of the galaxy, this is Commander Elena Vasquez speaking for humanity from Earth. If you are receiving this transmission, it means our world is about to die. The galactic hegemony has come to destroy us just as they destroyed 43 other species before us." Elena's voice was calm, professional. She spoke like a soldier giving a mission report. No emotion, no pleading, just facts. "We want you to understand what happened here. The hegemony told us we could surrender and be relocated to reservation worlds. They said some of our people would survive if we cooperated. We discovered this was a lie. We have evidence that every species that trusted the hegemony was completely eliminated. The reservation worlds are empty. The hegemony does not relocate conquered species. They exterminate them. Elena activated the first data burst. Terabytes of information flooded across space. Evidence of the hegemony's crimes. Detailed analysis of their technology. Tactical information about their weaknesses. We are sending you everything we learned about hegemony operations. Study it, use it, share it with other species. The hegemony wants you to believe they are invincible. They are not. On the screens around her, Elena could see alien ships landing on every continent. Thousands of them. They came down like falling stars, bringing death and conquest. Their soldiers poured out, expecting to find a broken world ready to surrender. You should know something about humans, Elena continued. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We do not accept that some species are born to rule while others are born to serve. When you back a human into a corner, when you threaten human children, when you try to take our freedom, we become something you cannot control. The second data burst transmitted. Cultural records, art, music, literature. The story of humanity told in its own words. Proof that Earth's people were more than just another primitive species. The hegemony believes they understand warfare. They believe they understand what it means to fight humans. They are wrong. They think war is about superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They think victory means crushing your enemy completely. Elena stood up from her console. Around the world, human resistance fighters engaged alien forces. They fought knowing they could not win. They fought because fighting was what humans did when freedom was threatened. We are about to show them what war really means when humans are involved. The hegemony wants to make an example of Earth. Instead, Earth will make an example for the galaxy. Elena walked to the window. The alien flagship was descending toward the communication center. It was massive, beautiful, and utterly confident. Its weapons could level mountains. Its shields could stop nuclear weapons, but humans had not built a nuclear weapon. To every species listening to this broadcast, remember what you hear next. Remember that one small world chose death over slavery. Remember that humans would rather burn down the universe than live on their knees. Elena activated the final transmission sequence. The most important information humanity had ever gathered. Technical specifications for faster-than-light travel. Advanced weapons designs. Medical knowledge that could cure diseases across the galaxy. Manufacturing processes that could feed billions. Everything humans had learned in their short existence, given freely to any species brave enough to use it. We do not ask you to mourn for us. We ask you to learn from us. The hegemony will tell you that resistance is impossible. We are about to prove them wrong. They will tell you that some species are meant to rule while others are meant to serve. We died rather than accept that lie. The alien flagship was almost directly overhead now. Its weapons were charging. In moments, they would fire on the communication center. They would silence Earth's voice forever. Except Earth had one more thing to say. To the hegemony forces currently occupying our world. You wanted war. You thought you understood what that meant. You thought you could break our spirit with threats and superior firepower. You were wrong. Elena smiled as she spoke the words that would echo across the galaxy for centuries. You wanted war. Now brace yourself for what awaits. Elena pressed the final button. Around the world, every remaining communication array sent the same signal, down into the deep places where Dr. Kim's masterpiece waited, down to the weapon that would turn Earth itself into humanity's final message. The countdown began. 60 seconds until detonation. 60 seconds until the alien fleet learned what happened when you threatened human children. Elena watched the countdown timer and thought about her daughter. She would grow up free. She would know that Earth died so that humanity could live. She would carry the story to new worlds where human children would play under alien suns. The alien weapons fired. The communication center filled with light and heat and thunder. But Elena's message had already been sent. Her voice was already racing across space at the speed of light. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. Earth kept its promise. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Captain Keltar of the Hegemony Intelligence Division watched the readings on his ship's sensors and could not believe what he was seeing. The numbers were impossible. No weapon could generate that much energy. No species was capable of such destruction, but Earth was gone. The planet had simply disappeared in a flash of light brighter than the local star. Where the human homeworld had been, there was now an expanding cloud of superheated gas and twisted metal. The remains of 10,000 hegemony ships tumbled through space like burning leaves. Keltar's ship had been stationed near Mars, far enough away to survive the blast. He was one of only 50 hegemony vessels to escape the explosion. 50 ships out of the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Send a priority message to High Command, Keltar ordered his communications officer. Earth has been destroyed. The human fleet has also been destroyed. That was the official report. The truth was different. The truth was that Keltar had never seen the human fleet at all. Earth ships had retreated to the outer system before the battle began. They had not fought. They had simply left, and then Earth had exploded. Keltar replayed the sensor data again and again. The explosion had come from inside the planet itself. Somehow, impossibly, the humans had turned their entire world into a bomb. They had sacrificed everything. Their cities, their people, their history, all to destroy one hegemony fleet. It made no sense. Species were supposed to value survival above all else. They were supposed to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. They were supposed to accept their place in the galactic order. Humans had done none of these things. On the other side of the galaxy, scholar Vexny of the Thali Republic received the human broadcast 18 days after Earth's destruction. She was studying ancient languages in her laboratory when her communication system activated itself. Every screen in the building displayed the same message. Vexny listened to Elena Vasquez's words with growing amazement. She had heard rumors about the human species, primitive creatures from a small world near the galaxy's edge. The hegemony had claimed they were dangerous savages who needed to be controlled. The broadcast told a different story. Vexny activated her translation programs and began analyzing the data bursts attached to the human message. What she found changed everything she thought she knew about the galaxy. The humans had included detailed evidence of hegemony crimes, not just against humanity but against dozens of other species. The Korvaxi, who had supposedly died from a plague. The Zalani, who had allegedly destroyed themselves in a civil war. The Makari, who had supposedly vanished into deep space. All lies. The hegemony had murdered them all. Vexny studied the human technical data with growing excitement. These primitive creatures had developed faster-than-light communication. They had created medical treatments that could cure genetic diseases. They had solved mathematical problems that Thali scientists had worked on for centuries, and they had given it all away. Everything they had learned, transmitted freely to any species that could receive it. Vexny made copies of everything. She encrypted the files and sent them to researchers across the Thali Republic. Within hours, the data was spreading through Thali networks like wildfire. The humans called their final message, "Remember Earth." Vexny understood why. 3 months after Earth's destruction, the first riots began on Corval Prime. The Korvaxi had been enslaved by the hegemony for 800 years. They had been told their ancestors were violent savages who needed to be controlled for their own good. The human broadcast proved this was a lie. The Korvaxi had been free once. They had built cities and art and music before the hegemony came. Their enslavement was not natural law. It was a crime. Korvaxi workers began sabotaging hegemony facilities. They destroyed mining equipment and transport ships. They painted "Remember Earth" on factory walls. When hegemony forces tried to stop them, they fought back. The uprising spread to other worlds. The Zalani, who had been forced to work in hegemony shipyards, suddenly began building ships for themselves. The Mokari stopped paying tribute to their hegemony overseers. Across the galaxy, enslaved species remembered what freedom felt like. Overlord Zektar stood in his command center and watched reports of rebellion flooding in from across hegemony space. 17 worlds in open revolt, 43 more showing signs of unrest. Production quotas failing on hundreds of planets. "It's the human broadcast," his intelligence chief reported. "The message is spreading faster than we can contain it. Every species that receives it begins questioning our authority." Zektar studied the tactical display. Red dots marked planets in rebellion. Yellow dots showed worlds where unrest was growing. Green dots represented stable hegemony worlds. There were fewer green dots every day. "How is this possible?" Zektar demanded. "We destroyed their entire fleet. We eliminated their homeworld. How can a dead species cause so much trouble? His intelligence chief activated a holographic display. Elena Vasquez's image appeared, speaking the words that were reshaping the galaxy. They turned their destruction into a weapon, the intelligence chief explained. Not a physical weapon. Something worse. They turned their death into an idea. The idea that resistance is possible, that the hegemony can be defeated. Zektar watched the human commander deliver her final message. There was no fear in her voice. No begging or pleading. Just calm determination and absolute conviction that what she was doing was right. Ideas can be destroyed, Zektar said. Not this one, sir. We've tried. We've jammed communications, arrested dissidents, increased security on every world. It doesn't matter. The idea spreads anyway. Species that have never even heard of humans are using their technical data to build weapons. Their medical knowledge to treat diseases we use to keep slave populations weak. Zektar felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Real, cold, gut-wrenching fear. The hegemony had controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had crushed every rebellion, eliminated every threat, maintained perfect order across 10,000 worlds. Now that order was crumbling because one small species had refused to surrender. On the distant world of New Terra, the human colony ship Freedom's Dawn received Elena Vasquez's broadcast 6 months after Earth's destruction. Captain James Morrison gathered his people in the ship's main assembly hall to listen to their homeworld's final words. Many of them wept as they heard Elena's voice. They mourned for the billions who had died. They grieved for the world they would never see again. They felt the weight of loss that would never fully heal, but they also felt pride. Earth had not died in vain. The sacrifice had meaning, purpose, power. We are the children of Earth, Morrison told his people. We carry our world's memory in our hearts. We carry her message in our voices. We carry her dream of freedom in our souls. The colony ship continued toward its destination, a world where human children would grow up under an alien sun, where they would build new cities and create new art and ask new questions about the universe. Other human ships were scattered across the galaxy, each one carrying a piece of Earth's heritage, each one a seed of future human civilization. The hegemony had tried to destroy humanity completely. Instead, they had spread humanity across 10,000 worlds. Morrison opened a communication channel to every human ship in the convoy. 50 vessels carrying the survivors of Earth, the last free humans in the galaxy. This is Captain Morrison to all ships. We have received word from home. Earth kept her promise. The galaxy is waking up. The age of hegemony tyranny is ending. Morrison looked out at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, alien species were reading human science, learning human medicine, building human technology, fighting for human ideals of freedom and dignity. Prepare for the next phase of our mission, Morrison announced. We are no longer refugees running from our destroyed world. We are ambassadors carrying Earth's gift to the galaxy. We are proof that the human spirit cannot be destroyed. The human fleet continued toward the stars. Behind them, the galaxy burned with rebellion. Ahead of them, new worlds waited for Earth's children to arrive. The hegemony had wanted to make an example of humanity. Instead, humanity had made an example for the universe. Death before dishonor, freedom before survival, courage before safety. Remember Earth. Remember what happens when you threaten human children. The message echoed across space, carrying light into the darkness. 5 years had passed since Earth died, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain James Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and watched his new world grow larger in the view screen. They called it New Terra, a green and blue planet orbiting a yellow star much like Earth's ancient sun. It would be home to 50,000 human survivors and their children born among the stars. The colony ship shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Morrison felt the familiar pull of gravity, the promise of solid ground beneath his feet, but his mind was not on landing procedures or colonization plans. His thoughts were focused on the message he had received that morning, a message from the Zilani Liberation Front. Captain Morrison, came the voice of his communications officer. We're receiving another transmission from the surface. The Zilani delegation is requesting permission to land. Morrison smiled. 6 months ago, he would never have imagined those words. The Zilani had been slaves of the hegemony for over 1,000 years. They had built the ships that conquered other worlds. They had manufactured the weapons that enforced hegemony rule. Now they were free, and they wanted to meet the children of Earth. Grant them permission to land, Morrison ordered. Full diplomatic honors. The Zilani ship was unlike anything Morrison had ever seen. It was built from salvaged hegemony technology, but modified with distinctly alien artistry. Curved lines replaced harsh angles. Bright colors covered surfaces that had once been cold metal gray. It was a ship built by a people who remembered how to dream. The Zilani delegation consisted of 3 beings who looked like walking trees with crystal eyes. Their leader, who called herself Branch Who Remembers Sky, spoke through a translation device that gave her voice a musical quality. "Children of Earth," she said, "we come to offer alliance. Your people's sacrifice has freed 17 worlds from hegemony control. We wish to ensure that number continues to grow." Morrison led the delegation to the colony's main meeting hall. It was still under construction, built from local materials and human engineering. Simple but functional. Everything humans built these days was designed to last, to endure, to survive whatever the galaxy might throw at them. "Tell me about the rebellion," Morrison said. Branch Who Remembers. Sky activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy as it existed now, 5 years after Earth's destruction. Red dots marked worlds in open revolt against the hegemony. Yellow dots showed planets where resistance movements were growing. Green dots represented the shrinking number of worlds still under hegemony control. "Your people's broadcast changed everything," Branch Who Remembers Sky explained. "We always knew the hegemony was cruel, but we believed they were too powerful to resist. Your Elena Vasquez proved that even the mightiest empire can be hurt by those willing to sacrifice everything." Morrison studied the tactical display. The rebellion was spreading faster than the hegemony could contain it. Their vast empire was fracturing along species lines. Worlds that had been conquered centuries ago were remembering their freedom. "What do you need from us?" Morrison asked. "We need Earth's children to be what they were always meant to be," the Zilani leader replied. "Teachers, inspirers, proof that the human spirit cannot be destroyed." Over the following weeks, similar delegations arrived from across the galaxy. The Korvaxi sent warriors who had broken their chains on the mining worlds. The Thali sent scholars who had used human scientific data to develop new technologies. The Mokari sent artists who had painted Remember Earth on 1,000 worlds. Each species brought the same message. The galaxy was waking up. The age of hegemony tyranny was ending. But the rebellion needed leadership. It needed a symbol that could unite dozens of different species against their common enemy. It needed the children of Earth. Morrison called a meeting of the Colony Council. The leaders of all 50 human settlements gathered in the main hall. They were farmers and scientists, engineers and teachers, soldiers and artists, the survivors of a dead world who had chosen to build something new rather than simply mourn what was lost. "The galaxy is asking us to lead a revolution," Morrison told them. "Every free species wants humanity to join their fight against the hegemony." Dr. Sarah Kim, who had survived Earth's destruction aboard a research vessel, spoke first. "We're not warriors. We're colonists trying to build a new life." "That's exactly why they need us," replied Commander Torres, the colony's military leader. "We represent something the galaxy has never seen before. A species that chose principle over survival, death over dishonor." The debate continued for hours. Some colonists wanted to focus on building their new world. They had sacrificed enough. They had lost their homeworld and everyone they loved. They deserved peace. Others argued that Earth's sacrifice would be meaningless if humans turned away from the galaxy's struggle. The rebellion needed Earth's children to remind other species what they were fighting for. The decision came when Morrison received another message. This one was different. It came through channels that should have been impossible to access. Channels that belonged to the hegemony itself. The message was from Overlord Zektar himself, the alien commander who had ordered Earth's destruction. "Captain Morrison," the message began, "I offer you terms. Surrender yourselves to hegemony justice, and we will allow your colonies to exist in peace. Continue to inspire rebellion, and we will hunt down every human in the galaxy." Morrison played the message for the entire colony. When it finished, the hall was completely silent. Then Morrison began to laugh. It started as a chuckle, then grew into full-throated laughter that echoed through the hall. Soon other colonists were laughing too. The sound spread until the entire assembly was roaring with mirth. "Did you hear that?" Morrison asked when the laughter finally died down. The mighty hegemony is afraid of us. They're so terrified of 50,000 human refugees that they're offering to negotiate. Dr. Kim stood up slowly. I changed my vote. We joined the rebellion. The vote was unanimous. Morrison composed his response to the hegemony. It was brief and to the point. Overlord Zektar, this is Captain James Morrison speaking for the free humans of New Terra. You destroyed our world because you were afraid of human ideas. You scattered us across the galaxy because you thought that would make us weaker. You were wrong on both counts. Morrison looked around the hall at the faces of Earth's children, young and old, male and female, representing every nation and culture that had ever existed on humanity's homeworld. They were not the same people who had lived before the hegemony came. They were something new, something stronger. We reject your terms. We will not surrender. We will not hide. We will not abandon the species fighting for freedom across the galaxy. You wanted to destroy humanity. Instead, you created something far more dangerous than we ever were on Earth. Morrison smiled as he spoke the words that would define humanity's future among the stars. You created humans with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. You created a species that has already died once for freedom and is willing to do it again. You created the one thing your empire cannot survive. Morrison paused for dramatic effect. You created hope. The message ended with a data burst, containing the coordinates of every human colony in the galaxy. Morrison was telling the hegemony exactly where to find Earth's children. He was daring them to try again. The response came within days, not from the hegemony, but from 17 different species declaring their formal alliance with humanity. The Galactic Liberation Front was born, with New Terra as its unofficial capital and humans as its spiritual leaders. The war that followed would rage for decades. The hegemony was powerful and experienced, but they were fighting something they had never encountered before. A coalition of species united not by conquest or fear, but by shared ideals of freedom and dignity. Morrison stood on the hills above New Terra's first city and watched human children playing in the alien grass. They were born free. They would grow up free. They would carry Earth's message to worlds that humans had never dreamed of visiting. In the distance, construction crews worked on the memorial they were building. A simple stone monument with one inscription, "Remember Earth." But this was not a monument to the dead. It was a promise to the living. A reminder that some things were worth dying for. A declaration that tyranny, no matter how powerful, could never truly defeat the human spirit. Morrison activated his communication console and opened a channel to every human colony in the galaxy. To the farmers on agricultural worlds and the miners on asteroid stations. To the scientists on research vessels and the teachers in frontier schools. To all of Earth's scattered children. This is Captain Morrison broadcasting from New Terra. Today marks the 5th anniversary of our homeworld sacrifice. Today we remember not just what we lost, but what we gained. Earth died, so that humanity could be reborn among the stars. Morrison looked up at the alien sky, where new constellations traced patterns that no human eye had ever seen. We are no longer refugees. We are no longer survivors. We are the children of Earth, the teachers of freedom, the enemies of tyranny. We carry our world's light into the darkness. His voice carried across space to human colonies throughout the galaxy. On each world, people stopped what they were doing to listen to their captain's words.